Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a tragedy that, well, for years, it really captured the national media's attention. Not just because of the sheer scope, you know, the number of lives lost, but because of the fierce and painful conflict that followed the official investigation.
Exactly. We are focusing today on the 2009 Taconic State Parkway crash. And for those who might not remember all the details, this was just a catastrophic moment in New York history.
Yeah.
It involved a driver traveling 1.7 miles. Think about that.
Yeah.
1.7 miles in the wrong direction on a major parkway.
And it ended in a head-on collision. Claimed 8 lives.
8 lives. It was the worst fatal motor vehicle crash in Westchester County since, I think, 1934. A long, long time.
That number 8 deaths, it really tells you the magnitude of the impact. But what made this case, I think, truly unique was that immediate clash, right?
Yeah.
Between the forensic facts, the science, and the public image of the driver, Diane Schuler. The state police found evidence of, well, profound intoxication.
While her family, they insisted on a completely different narrative. Sudden medical emergency.
And that tension, that's really why this case endures, isn't it?
It is. So our mission in this deep dive, it's really to synthesize everything. The official reports, the detailed investigation notes, the, extensive media coverage.
We want to meticulously unpack the timeline. Diane Schuler's final hours.
Analyze the definitive, and I mean irrefutable forensic evidence, and then explore the psychological landscape of that intense decade-long resistance from the family to those findings.
Yeah, we've got the official reports, media clips, notes from the investigation.
Yeah.
It really shows that point where, personal grief just slams right into scientific fact.
We're treating this as a case study. Investigative closure versus, emotional denial.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The sequence of events that unfolded on that terrible Sunday.
Right. The setting is Hunter Lake Campground, Parksville, New York. It's Sunday morning, July 26, 2009. Diane Schuler, she's 36 years old, preparing for the drive home to Long Island. And she's driving a borrowed vehicle, a 2003 Ford Windstar minivan. Not her own car.
And she left around 9:30 a.m.
About then, yes. Her husband, Daniel Schuler, he left separately in his pickup truck.
Right, and the minivan,
Yeah.
It was full. Her 5-year-old son, her 2-year-old daughter, and her 3 nieces, ages 8, 7, and 5.
5 young children in the back. It's a heavy detail to start with.
It really is.
Now, it's crucial for the timeline. The co-owner of the campground, who actually spoke with Diane right before she left, confirmed she appeared sober at 9:30 a.m. Completely sober.
Sober at 9:30. That sets up an extraordinarily short window, doesn't it? For the level of intoxication that followed.
Incredibly short and aggressive.
Okay, so she leaves the campground. What happens next?
The first stops we know about are in Liberty, New York. She stops at a McDonald's and then a Sunoco gas station.
And there's video.
Yes, surveillance video captured her inside the convenience store at the Sunoco. This was around 11 a.m.
Okay, and this became a key point later, right, in the family's narrative.
A huge battleground for the narrative. Her family, their lawyer later claimed she went in trying to buy over-the-counter pain relief, like Tylenol, they suggested.
For what, did they say?
They mentioned a toothache, an abscess later, but the point they made was the station didn't sell the specific one she wanted.
Okay, but what did the clerk say about her condition then, at 11 a.m.?
The clerk was quite clear. He stated, and this is a quote, "I knew for a fact that she wasn't drunk when she came into the station."
Okay, wait. So, sober at 9:30, confirmed not drunk by a clerk at 11 a.m. The crash happens at 1:35 p.m.
Yes.
And the autopsy finds a BAC of 0.19%.
Correct. More than double the legal limit.
That is a massive amount of alcohol. I mean, that's enough to severely impair anyone, let alone while driving. And it had to have been consumed in just over 2.5 hours.
Exactly. While driving a minivan packed with 5 children.
So the investigation, where'd they conclude she actually drank it? Couldn't have been at the gas station.
No. The investigation suggests the consumption must have been acute, rapid, and almost certainly happened inside the vehicle, probably right after that 11 a.m. gas station stop.
And the driving changed immediately after that.
Almost instantly. We see the direct behavioral consequences reflected in the witness reports that started coming in.
Tell us about those reports. What did people see?
Well, after leaving Liberty, moving on to Route 17 I-86 and then I-87, the driving went from, maybe rushed to extremely aggressive and dangerous.
Oh, so?
Multiple witnesses called 911. They reported the red minivan driving erratically, Not just weaving, but aggressively tailgating other cars, flashing her headlights, honking the horn,
Wow.
and straddling 2 lanes, just dangerously straddling the lanes.
That doesn't sound like just being tired or distracted.
No, this is textbook driving under the influence, showing profound impairment, impatience, poor judgment.
And then the physical signs started appearing.
Yes. Around 11:45 a.m., so maybe 45 minutes after the gas station stop, witnesses saw Schuler pull over to the side of the road. This was north of the Ramapo-Slotsburg rest stop.
What did they see her doing?
They reported seeing her standing outside the minivan, bent over with her hands on her knees like she was vomiting.
Oh, man.
And this happened, according to witnesses, not once but twice. Pulled over, apparently vomiting.
That's a pretty clear signal of acute physical distress, likely from rapid alcohol consumption, right?
It fits perfectly with the timeline and the toxicology. Something was very wrong.
Which brings us to those critical final phone calls, where the impairment became obvious even to the children in the car.
Yeah, this is tough. The first call we know about from Schuler's phone to her brother, Warren Hance, that was at 11:37 a.m.
Before the vomiting incidents were witnessed.
Correct. In that call, she apparently just blamed the delay on traffic. Simple explanation.
Okay, but then there was a second call.
A second call made around 1 p.m., and this one, it's devastating.
This is where the nieces get involved.
Yes. During that 1 p.m. call, one of the nieces, reportedly 8-year-old Emma, spoke first. She told her father, Warren Hance,
Okay, yeah.
that her Aunt Diane was having trouble seeing clearly and was slurring her words, having trouble speaking.
Oh, from the child.
From the child. Schuler then apparently took the phone, and she confirmed what the niece said. She told her brother she was disoriented and couldn't see clearly.
That's just chilling. She admitted it. She knew she was impaired.
She did. And that's arguably the last sort of rational communication acknowledged. Her brother told her to stop.
He told her to stay put. Right. Wait for help.
Explicitly. Stay off the road. Pull over. Wait. He said he was coming for them.
That she didn't.
She didn't. Investigators later found her cell phone abandoned by the side of the highway near the Tappan Zee Bridge toll booths.
Abandoned or dropped.
They couldn't be certain. Maybe dropped accidentally in her state, maybe deliberately left behind so she wouldn't have to take more calls telling her to stop. Either way, subsequent calls from her brother went unanswered.
She was disconnected.
Ugh.
And still driving.
Fully disconnected.
Yeah.
And driving toward disaster.
So we move from the Tappan Zee area, she's somehow continued driving, to the final moments on the Taconic State Parkway near Briarcliff Manor.
Investigators couldn't pin down the exact route she took onto the parkway or the exact entry point. But the fatal turn that was recorded at 1:33 p.m.
How?
Drivers started calling 911 almost immediately, reporting a red minivan edging onto the northbound exit ramp of the Taconic.
Onto an exit ramp, going the wrong way.
Going the wrong way onto the parkway via an exit ramp.
And we have to emphasize the signage there. This wasn't like a confusing intersection.
Not at all. The investigation confirmed the ramp entrance was clearly marked. 2 do not enter signs, 2 one-way signs, big clear signs.
She drove right past them.
Right past them. Her disorientation, her impairment, it must have been profound at this point.
And how long did she drive the wrong way?
Within 2 minutes of entering that ramp, she was driving south in the northbound passing lane.
South in the northbound lane.
Yes. Multiple 911 calls reported her speed, around 80 miles per hour.
80 miles per hour the wrong way.
For 1.7 miles, it's a shocking distance to travel against oncoming highway traffic.
1.7 miles.
Until
1:35 p.m., she collided head-on with a 2004 Chevrolet Trailblazer traveling northbound correctly in the passing lane.
the impact speed.
The crash reconstruction estimated the combined closing speed was enormous, but her speed at impact was calculated to be approximately 85 miles per hour.
85, head on. Survival was impossible.
Yeah, the human toll. It's just almost impossible to fully comprehend. 8 people killed, either instantly or very shortly thereafter.
Let's be clear about who was lost in the minivan.
Diane Schuler herself, her 2-year-old daughter Erin, and her 3 nieces, Emma Hance, age 8, Allison Hance, age 7. The youngest niece, Katie Hance, age 5, initially survived but tragically died later at the hospital.
So Diane and 4 of the 5 children in her van.
Yes, 4 children killed.
And then the people in the other vehicle. The Trailblazers, just innocent victims. Completely innocent. They were just driving northbound, going about their Sunday. Michael Bastardi, 81 years old. His son, Guy Bastardi, 49. And their family friend, Dan Longo, who was 74.
3 men in the Trailblazer, killed instantly.
Their lives just violently ended. There was a third vehicle involved, too.
There was A 2002 Chevrolet Tracker was also struck after the initial collision. Thankfully, the two occupants in that vehicle suffered only minor injuries.
Minor physical injuries, at least. The trauma, I imagine.
Unimaginable for everyone involved.
Mhm.
And the sole survivor from the minivan, Schuler's son, Brian. He was 5.
He survived, but with devastating injuries. Broken bones, severe head trauma. He was hospitalized for several weeks. He lived, but marked forever by that trauma.
Yeah. Now, right at the scene, there was evidence that immediately pointed away from a simple medical emergency, wasn't there?
There was, and it became significant very quickly. Witnesses who stopped to help, trying to get people out of the wreckage. They reported seeing a large, broken, Absolute vodka bottle right there on the floor by the driver's side of the minivan after they had removed Schuler from the wreck.
A broken vodka bottle, inches from where she sat.
This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was physical evidence right there at the collision site.
And that leads us directly to the forensic report, the scientific facts,
Yeah.
which really became the hinge upon which the entire sort of subsequent drama turned.
Absolutely. The official toxicology findings. They were released by the Westchester County Medical Examiner on August 4, 2009, just over a week after the crash.
And what did they find?
The findings were definitive and, frankly, shocking to many who knew Diane. Her blood alcohol content, the BAC, was 0.19%.
0.19, let's put that in perspective for people listening. The legal limit in New York is 0.118%.
Correct. So 0.19% is more than double the legal limit, almost 2.5 times the threshold for intoxication.
We hear the legal limit number, 0.08, thrown around. But let's dive into what 0.19% actually means physiologically, especially when someone is driving at 85 miles per hour.
Okay. At 0.19% BAC, an average person experiences significant motor impairment. We're talking severe loss of balance, coordination issues, likely slurred speech, which matches the niece's report.
Right.
Judgment, perception, reaction time, all profoundly compromised. You can't make good decisions. You can't react quickly.
And 0.19 is getting dangerously high, isn't it?
Very high. It's dangerously close to the 0.20% to 0.30% range, where you start seeing severe nausea, vomiting, which witnesses reported seeing her do roadside, and even potential loss of consciousness, blackouts.
It absolutely explains the erratic driving, the hitting the horn, flashing lights,
It's like vomiting.
and the complete inability to process 4 huge do not enter in one-way signs.
Exactly. Her body and brain were essentially shutting down critical functions needed for safe driving, or even just basic orientation, while she was operating a vehicle at high speed.
And the report offered even more. Proof that this wasn't, say, alcohol left over from the night before. It was acute consumption, right?
Yes, this is a critical piece of the forensic analysis. The toxicology report noted approximately 6 grams of alcohol still unabsorbed in her stomach.
Unabsorbed, what does that tell us?
Alcohol gets absorbed into the bloodstream pretty quickly, usually within 30 to 90 minutes after drinking. Finding 6 grams still in the stomach, unabsorbed, means she had consumed a large volume of alcohol. Think the equivalent of several shots of hard liquor, like vodka, very shortly before the crash.
So definitely after that 11 a.m. gas station stop where the clerk said she wasn't drunk.
Almost certainly after 11:45 a.m., when witnesses saw her vomiting by the road. The drinking was heavy, and it was recent, very recent.
That combination, the timeline, the 0.19 BAC, the unabsorbed alcohol, it really closes the window, doesn't it?
It slams it shut. She drank heavily, and she drank quickly while driving 5 children. The question of where she consumed it, inside the van, becomes less important than the irrefutable scientific fact that she consumed it, and consumed a lot, right before the crash.
And it wasn't just alcohol.
No. The toxicology report also found high levels of THC. That's the active ingredient in marijuana in her system.
High levels, not just trace amounts.
High levels. And THC, especially at significant levels, is known to exacerbate the negative effects of alcohol.
How so?
It can lead to even greater disorientation, a more distorted perception of time and speed, and further impaired coordination. The combination is particularly dangerous for driving.
So alcohol and marijuana, both at high levels.
Correct. Now, it's worth noting the crash was officially ruled a homicide by the Westchester County District Attorney shortly after, based purely on her negligent driving resulting in death. They said the toxicology wasn't strictly necessary for that ruling.
Just the act of driving the wrong way at that speed was enough.
It was enough for the homicide ruling. But the toxicology confirmed why that negligence occurred. Forensically, the investigation was complete. The cause was clear.
And this is where the story just takes such a sharp turn. From this, horrific tragedy and clear investigation into this intense psychological drama.
Exactly. Because while the forensic facts were frankly overwhelming,
Undeniable.
undeniable, the surviving family members, led by Diane's husband, Daniel Schuler, mounted an immediate and incredibly aggressive campaign of denial.
And this denial, it wasn't just a flat no. It evolved over time, didn't it, as facts became harder to ignore?
It did. Initially, Daniel Schuler and his attorney at the time, Dominic Barbara, they went on TV, they did interviews.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they claimed, flat out, zero drinking, zero illegal drug use during the whole camping trip. They painted Diane as this perfect mother, a responsible person who simply didn't drink to excess, if at all.
But that stance, I mean, with the vodka bottle found right at the scene.
It became untenable almost immediately. That plus the witness reports of vomiting and erratic driving. They were forced to shift their claims.
So what did they shift to?
Daniel eventually had to concede that, yes, okay, he and Diane had consumed some alcohol during the camping trip over the weekend. But he vehemently denied she drank to excess or that she had consumed any alcohol on the Sunday, the day of the crash.
So how did they explain the broken absolute bottle found literally inches from the driver's seat?
The explanation offered was, well, let's just say it was weak. Daniel claimed it was an old bottle they kept in their camera for some reason, and that Diane must have just packed it into the minivan by mistake when packing up.
Packed an open, partially consumed bottle of vodka by mistake.
That was the narrative, an attempt to explain the object's presence without admitting to its recent use.
Okay. And the marijuana.
Yeah.
The high levels of THC.
That also had to be addressed eventually. After initially denying any legal drug use at all, Daniel later admitted Diane smoked marijuana occasionally.
Occasionally?
Yes, claiming it was only to help her sleep, to relieve insomnia. However, police interviews with his own sister-in-law, who is Diane's best friend, later indicated Diane was actually a regular, heavy marijuana user.
So the story kept changing.
The core message remained the same, though. Any substance use was minimal, controlled, maybe medicinal, and absolutely not the cause of the crash.
So if they couldn't completely deny the substances, they needed another explanation. A replacement narrative for the wrong way driving, the disorientation, the crash itself.
Exactly. And this is where the medical emergency theory was really born and pushed hard.
What kind of medical emergency did they propose?
This became the absolute central focus of their denial strategy. They aggressively promoted the idea that Schuler must have suffered some kind of sudden acute medical crisis, a stroke, maybe an aneurysm, a heart attack, maybe even a grand mal seizure, something that came out of nowhere.
And did they offer any basis for these theories? Any pre-existing conditions?
They pointed to several things. Her alleged obesity. They claimed she might have had gestational diabetes from a previous pregnancy. They heavily emphasized a painful tooth abscess she'd reportedly had for about 7 weeks leading up to the crash.
The tooth abscess. How could that cause a crash?
The theory seemed to be that the pain was so severe it could have caused delirium or fainting, or perhaps led her to self-medicate in a way that caused the impairment, though not with alcohol or THC, apparently. They also mentioned Diane had apparently noted a lump in her leg that she worried might have been an embolism.
It sounds like, forgive me, but it sounds like grasping at straws. Throwing out any possible medical term to avoid the obvious conclusion.
It certainly appeared that way to investigators and the public. It looked like motivated reasoning, searching for any conceivable natural cause, no matter how unlikely, to explain why this woman they saw as a perfect mother could kill herself and 7 other people, including her own child and nieces.
An attempt to turn a culpable action, driving drunk, into a tragic, unavoidable illness.
Precisely. But the official autopsy, it was decisive and immediate.
What did the autopsy find regarding those theories? Stroke, heart attack.
Absolutely nothing. The Westchester County Medical Examiner found 0 evidence of a stroke, no aneurysm, no heart attack, no seizure activity indicators, nothing. No acute, life-threatening medical event that could explain that kind of sudden, severe disorientation and impaired driving.
So the medical examiner rules out the medical emergency theory. The tox report confirms massive intoxication. Case closed.
You would think so. But Daniel Schuler refused to accept any of it. Not the medical examiner's findings, not the toxicology report. His commitment to the counter-narrative, the medical emergency, it became, Well, extreme.
Leading to the exhumation.
Leading to the absolutely sensational step of exhuming his wife's body. He was that desperate to disprove the state's findings.
And how did he fund that? Exhumations aren't cheap, nor is independent testing.
He raised $100,000 from a film company, specifically the producers of what became the HBO documentary, There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane.
Wow, so the documentary funded the exhumation.
Essentially, yes. The money was earmarked for extensive third-party testing, hair testing for drugs, retesting fluid samples. The idea was whatever money was left over would go into a trust fund for their surviving son, Brian.
The very act of, monetizing his wife's exhumation for a documentary, it just shows the depth of his commitment to this denial, doesn't it?
It was extraordinary. And he hired a well-known private investigator, Tom Ruskin, to oversee this independent retesting. This was positioned as the ultimate challenge to the state's official facts.
Okay, so Ruskin conducts the independent tests using the exhumed samples. What did he find?
And this is the crucial turning point, or what should have been. The results of the private investigation, paid for by the family, arranged by the family, they were the ultimate confirmation of the original finding.
Ruskin found the same thing.
Exactly the same thing. Ruskin's independent toxicology, retesting, and DNA testing confirmed the results. Diane Schuler was highly intoxicated from both alcohol and marijuana at the time of the crash. The forensic facts were now confirmed by the family's own hand-picked experts.
So that must have ended the denial,
Oh.
right? Presented with confirmation from their own investigator.
This is where it gets truly fascinating, psychologically, and just deeply sad. The HBO documentary actually captured the family's reaction, their refusal to accept the confirmed results, even from Ruskin, the man they hired.
They still didn't believe it.
They didn't. The documentary showed Daniel and his sister-in-law, Jay Hance, who was Diane's closest friend and had lost her husband Warren in the crash. Wait, no, Warren Hance was Diane's brother. Jay lost her daughters.
Right. Jay Hance lost her 3 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
Warren was Diane's brother, Jackie Hance's husband.
Thank you, yes. Jay Hance and Daniel Schuler persistently rejected Ruskin's findings on camera. Jay Hance even claimed she was told not to pick up Ruskin's calls after he delivered the results. She said she didn't understand any of it.
He just chose to ignore it,
Yeah.
attributed it to conspiracy or error, even from their own guy.
It appeared that way. Despite paying, a significant amount of money to get those results, they simply refused to integrate them into their reality. The denial was absolute.
And this public persistence, it must have drawn a reaction, especially from the other families, the Bastardists, the Longos.
Oh, absolutely. Massive public condemnation. The relatives of the men killed in the Trailblazer, the Bastardi and Longo families, they publicly accused Daniel Schuler of deliberately inflicting more pain on them with his continued denials.
They spoke out quite forcefully, didn't they?
They did. The Bastardi daughters appeared on the Today Show. They didn't just condemn the denial, they started questioning Daniel's own potential culpability, suggesting he must have known about or enabled his wife's substance abuse. They even called for him to undergo drug testing himself.
Wow.
Their lawyer at the time didn't mince words either. He called Daniel's continued stance an insult to the intelligence of the American public.
So the battle lines were drawn. Forensics and the victims' families on one side, Daniel Schuler and his narrative on the other.
And the New York State Police. They issued their final comprehensive report on the crash in June 2010. It upheld every single aspect of the original investigation. The toxicology, the collision analysis, the timeline. The facts were set in stone by the authorities, but the narrative battle, fueled by denial, just raged on in the media.
Okay, so beyond the public battle, there was the legal fallout.
Mm-hmm.
Civil suits. That must have been incredibly complicated.
Highly complex, especially with the family dynamics involved. The first sort of administrative step happened in November 2009. Daniel Schuler officially declined to act as the administrator for Diane Schuler's estate.
Why is that role important? Why does the estate need an administrator?
Well, for the victims' families to file civil lawsuits seeking damages, they need a legal entity to sue. That entity is the estate of the deceased person responsible. If the spouse declines, someone has to be appointed.
So because Daniel refused, a judge had to step in.
Correct. A county court judge appointed a public administrator. This finally cleared the way legally for the lawsuits to proceed against Diane Schuler's estate.
And the lawsuits began pretty quickly after that.
They did. In December 2009, the Bastardi family filed suit against Schuler's estate. And crucially, they also had to sue Warren Hance.
Diane's brother. Why him?
Because he owned the minivan. Under New York state law at the time, the owner of a vehicle involved in such an incident could be held liable, so he had to be named in the suit, even though no one suggested he had any direct fault in the crash itself. The lawsuit sought unspecified damages for Diane's reckless conduct.
So the bastardists sue the estate and the van's owner, but then the tragedy ripped apart the Schuler-Hans family connection itself, legally.
Yes, that was perhaps the most heartbreaking development. 2 years after the crash, in July 2011, Jackie Hans.
Warren's wife, who lost her 3 daughters.
Exactly. She sued her brother-in-law, Daniel Schuler.
Sued Daniel. On what grounds?
Her claim was just profoundly emotional and based on the horror of the final moments. She asserted that her deceased daughters had suffered terror, fear of impending death, extreme horror, fright, and mental anguish during that 1.7-mile wrong-way drive before the impact. She was seeking damages from Daniel, presumably through the estate or potentially other means related to Diane's actions.
That's devastating. A mother suing her brother-in-law over the deaths of her children caused by his wife.
The grief just turning inwards within the family. And then, almost simultaneously, Daniel Schuler filed lawsuits of his own, also in July 2011 on the 2-year anniversary.
Who did he sue?
He sued the state of New York. His claim was that the state had failed to keep the roads safe, essentially arguing that inadequate signage or faulty road design on the Taconic Parkway contributed to the crash, deflecting blame from Diane.
Despite the 4 signs at the exit ramp.
Despite the signs. And he also sued Warren Hans.
He sued his brother-in-law, too, the owner of the van.
Yes, likely mirroring the same legal requirement that the owner be named in civil action related to the vehicle. It became this incredibly tangled, painful web of lawsuits crisscrossing between the grieving families.
How did it all resolve? Did these cases go to trial?
No, thankfully it seems they avoided protracted public trials. Reports indicate that by July 2014, 5 years after the crash, all the various lawsuits were either settled out of court or had been dropped. The civil chapter, at least legally, was closed.
But the impact went beyond the courts. This incident directly spurred political action, didn't it? Leading to a major legislative change in New York.
Yes, this is arguably one of the most significant and lasting legacies of the Taconic tragedy. Very quickly, in August 2009, just weeks after the crash, then Governor David Paterson proposed what he called the Child Passenger Protection Act.
Directly inspired by this crash.
Directly. It was designed specifically to increase penalties for people driving intoxicated with children in the car, responding to the horror of the 5 kids in Diane Schuler's minivan.
But the law ended up with a different name, right? Leandra's Law.
That's right. The proposal gained even more urgency and national attention later that year, in October 2009, after another absolutely heartbreaking incident in New York City where an 11-year-old girl named Leandra Rosado was killed in a DWI crash.
Oh, I remember that case too, so they merged the efforts.
They did. The legislative push intensified, and the bill was renamed Leandra's Law in her memory. It was signed into law very quickly in November 2009.
And what exactly does Leandra's Law do? What are the teeth in it?
It significantly toughened penalties. The key provision made it an automatic felony, not a misdemeanor. A felony on the very first offense to drive while intoxicated or impaired by drugs with a passenger under the age of 16 in the vehicle.
A felony for the first offense if a child is in the car.
Yes. Before Leandra's Law, it was often prosecuted as a lesser charge, believe it or not. Furthermore, the law mandated the installation of an ignition interlock device that's a breathalyzer connected to the car's ignition for anyone convicted of DWI, even a first offense, for a minimum period.
So it really hardened the state's stance against drunk driving, especially with kids involved.
Absolutely. And the Taconic tragedy, the deaths of those 4 children in the minivan, was undeniably the original catalyst for that legislative action.
Culturally, the story was just inescapable for a while. Talk shows, news, it felt like everyone was talking about it.
It absolutely dominated the national conversation. It became this cultural flashpoint for discussions about motherhood, responsibility, denial, substance abuse.
It was covered everywhere, right? Like Dr. Phil, Oprah.
Extensively. The Oprah Winfrey Show interview with Tom Ruskin, the family's own private investigator, was particularly memorable.
Why was that one so significant?
Because Oprah, hearing Ruskin explain how he confirmed the high levels of alcohol and THC and how the family refused to accept it, she openly expressed disbelief. Just sheer incredulity on camera. It was this major media moment that starkly highlighted that gulf between the established scientific proof and the family's persistent denial.
Yeah, I remember seeing clips of that. Her reaction spoke for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah.
And the story seeped into fiction, too.
Oh, definitely. It shows how deeply the specific, horrifying details of the case lodge themselves in the public consciousness and in the minds of writers.
Like what?
Well, the Law and Order episode Doped featured a crash with circumstances that were strikingly similar. Stephen King explicitly cited the Taconic tragedy as inspiration for his short story, Herman Wouk is Still Alive.
Stephen King wrote about it.
He did. And even much more recently, a 2021 episode of the show 9 Mile 1 featured a scenario that was almost identical wrong-way driver, intoxicated, causing a mass casualty event. This tragedy sort of became the template, the archetype for the modern worst-case scenario of impaired driving.
And the HBO documentary, There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane. We mentioned it funded the exhumation, which felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But did it serve a purpose in the end?
I think it did, despite the controversy over the funding. While it gave airtime to some of the family's theories, like the tooth abscess causing delirium, the ultimate conclusion presented in the film, after showing Ruskin's investigation, was unavoidable. It presented the confirmed toxicology results from the state and confirmed by the family's own retesting. So in the end, it helped solidify the forensic conclusion in the public record, even while exploring the family's perspective.
And finally, something positive did emerge from all this darkness. The Hance family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jackie and Warren Hance, who suffered the unimaginable loss of their 3 daughters, Emma, Allison, and Katie.
What did they do?
They formed the Hance Family Foundation. It's dedicated to honoring their daughters' memories. Their main focus is on positive educational programming for children, particularly girls.
Like what kind of programs?
Their signature program is called Beautiful Me. It's designed to build self-esteem, self-awareness, and confidence in young girls, helping them appreciate their own unique qualities. It's a remarkable effort to bring something genuinely good and constructive into the world out of such profound personal loss, a legacy of prevention. Oh, when we look back at the Taconic tragedy now, all these years later, the forensic facts, they remain crystal clear, don't they?
Utterly clear. The timeline is established.
Yeah.
The 0.19% BAC, the high THC levels, the unabsorbed alcohol proving recent heavy consumption, the direct police and witness reports confirming the speed, the wrong direction, the erratic behavior.
All the objective evidence points unequivocally to a catastrophic failure of judgment directly caused by extreme intoxication from both alcohol and marijuana.
But the enduring legacy, I think, the reason we're still talking about it, is that incredible, almost unbelievable tension between that clear, conclusive scientific evidence and the profound psychological and emotional commitment, mainly from Daniel Schuler, to an alternative reality. A personal truth that just couldn't incorporate the facts.
That public media war he waged. Looking back, it seems like a desperate, prolonged defense mechanism, trying to protect the memory of his wife, the mother of his surviving child, from the unbearable reality of her final culpable actions.
It really does provide just a harrowing case study.
Yeah.
How the human psyche can construct walls, refuse to accept reality when the facts clash so violently with a deeply held perception of a loved one.
And the denial persisted for years, even after their own private investigator, the one they hired and paid, unequivocally confirmed their worst fears were true.
The facts were unambiguous, scientifically, legally, but acceptance. It just proved impossible for those closest to the driver.
And that forces us, I think, to confront a really difficult reality about human nature, about grief, and about how we process blame and responsibility in the face of unimaginable tragedy.
So we'll leave you with this final thought to consider. For you, the listener, how much does societal pressure, family loyalty, and the sheer weight of grief shape the narratives we build around tragedies?
And when scientific evidence is overwhelming, unambiguous, like it was here, what does it actually take for a family or an individual to finally accept that a loved one could be capable of something so devastating? And maybe more importantly, what are the long-term consequences for themselves, for survivors, for society of refusing to do so?
Something to definitely think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.